everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and today I'm excited to be kicking off a brand new showcase here on the channel, this time for Resident Evil 3, the board game from Steamforged Games. Now inside this showcase, you're going to see the game set up and brought to the table. You're also going to see full gameplay of one of the introduction scenarios for the campaign. That's right, Resident Evil 3 is a campaign-driven experience. You can play one-offs if you wish, but the heart and meat of this game comes from that campaign play, which I'm going to show you here in just a moment. Now we'll start in this video with the setup, getting all the components to the table and getting us ready for the action, which will then come in follow-up videos down the line. It's worth mentioning my patrons on Patreon have been awesome and already voted for the characters I'll be controlling. I'll be dual-handing it. I'll be having 2 characters as part of the team here, and out of the available options on Patreon, they went ahead and selected their favorite 2 and the most popular ones won out, and we'll be setting those characters up, so a big thanks to my patrons for that voting. Without further ado, let's dive into the steps to setup and show you exactly what's involved with getting Resident Evil 3 to the table. The first step of setup is to choose your characters. So at the start of a campaign, each player is going to select one of the starting characters. You have Jill, Carlos, Mikhail, and Nikolai to choose between. Now I'm playing solo, but I'm choosing not to play true solo with one character, which you can do, but I'm instead going to go ahead and dual-hand it so I can control 2 characters, show you a little more about the synergies that can be created by having 2 characters on the board at the same time during a mission. So at this point, we're going to go ahead based on my Patreon voting and find out which 2 are sticking around. Mikhail and Jill were the 2 selected, so we're going to place these face up in front of me. Just a quick heads up for those that want to play true solo with one character. At the back of the rulebook, there are additional rules which are used to again scale the game when playing with just a single character. Next, find the health tracks and you're going to place them to the right of your characters. Next, place the health token on the fine position of the health track. If your character is in the best shape possible, you're on the fine side of this health track on the far left-hand side. And as you make your way to the right, well, things aren't going so good. You're going to move from fine to caution and then finally to the danger side of things. The next step is to take a look at the profile card for each of your characters. It will depict exactly which starting items that they begin with. You're going to find these items in the item deck with the marked S on the back. At this point, Jill now has all her starting equipment. She has a knife, a handgun, and first aid spray. We're now going to grab the dial that relates to the gun she currently has equipped, which is the handgun. You can place the dial within easy reach. Take a look at the top right-hand corner of the weapon that you have, in this case the handgun. In the top right-hand corner says 15. Lets us know we're starting off with 15 bullets, which are placed on the dial. Mick over here on the left is all set up as well, although you'll notice that there's a difference in his starting gear versus what Jill has. He has handgun bullets, whereas she has a first aid spray. Next, we're going to set up the Raccoon City dashboard. We're going to place this to one side of the playing area, and we're going to take a look at the column on the far right in color. You're going to see from the very bottom in green all the way up to red. That is the danger level track. We're going to be placing the danger marker at the starting position going bottom to top. Next, you're going to want to find and shuffle the narrative event cards and place them face down on the narrative event slot on the left-hand side of the dashboard. The next couple steps are all about the item deck, so let's go ahead and take a look at item deck A. From the item deck A cards, which are easy to find based on the card backs, you're going to take a look through the deck and you're going to find any item cards from the A deck that have the symbol in the top right-hand corner that you can see on all these cards that are face up. These cards are removed. On the right-hand side of the dashboard, you'll see A, B, and C, so the rest of the deck A cards that were not put back in the box are going to be placed here after they're shuffled. Now let's focus on getting item deck C set up. Once you've found all item deck C cards, again, very easy to determine based on the card backs, you're going to have 3 sets of cards here, all based on the number of chevrons in the top right-hand corner. The very first one there, column on the left, is for the early item C cards. You have mid item C cards in the middle, and then late at the very far right. You're going to go ahead and stage these one on top of the other. Out of the 3 piles that you'll have, you'll want to take the one which is considered late level cards, which has 3 chevrons for the icon. You'll flip them over, shuffle them up, and place them face down in slot C. Next, you're going to do the exact same for the mid-level cards. You're going to flip them over, shuffle them up, and place them on top. So in essence, you are staging these items to come out around specific time frames, but not in necessarily a specific order, but more so categorized in groups. So the final one to go on top of item deck C to finish it off is going to be the ones with the single chevron icon at the very top right hand corner, and that's going to be the early level cards. Shuffle those up, place them face down on top. And it's worth mentioning, under no circumstances during the campaign do you ever shuffle this item C deck. Doing so could actually stop characters from accessing vital areas of the game. Of course, this could mess up your campaign, so very important to note. Once it is built and structured, don't shuffle it. Now let's move along to choosing a scenario from the Raccoon City dashboard. And as you'll see right on the dashboard, there are already 3 unlocked options from the very beginning of the campaign, so you are not pushed into one you must do to start things off. You get to choose between commercial number 1, uptown number 1, or downtown number 1. The choice between these unlocked scenarios I bounced off of my patrons on Discord, and they sort of pushed me, I want to say, aggressively maybe, into the Uptown 1 scenario. So I'm going to go ahead with that based on their great feedback. It's also worth mentioning, for those of you that are new to tabletop survival horror games, you're going to want to go with Downtown 1 as it's recommended in the rulebook. But again, when you start off your campaign, you have the freedom to select between any of these 3. After following the scenario book map layout, I've grabbed all the tiles specific to Uptown 1, placed them all out, and I've also placed, as you might notice, a number of door, archway, and barricade tokens. Now, just before we continue on, there's a number of illustrations on those terrain tokens that are worth talking about. So for doors, for instance, doors look like this. Of course, there's a frame, there's a door inside of it, and the way you know for sure it's a door is by flipping it over and seeing that the door actually opens up. Now, you'll take a look over here and see this one. This is more like a gate. Same idea. If you flip the token over and it shows that that thing is open, then that is a door. Now, there's other illustrations on these tokens, like this one right here, which shows a bunch of 2x4s pressed up against an opening, whether it's a window or a door. That is a barricade. It's handled differently in the rules. We'll talk about it later on. And then you also have archways. Of course, an archway means there is no door. It's just a wide open space. The final thing we need to do around the door tokens is to slot underneath of it a locked boutique key card, which lets us know that this door right here that looks like a gate leading to the outside is going to be locked, and it's going to require a specific key to open it. I've gone ahead and slotted the card underneath of the door. I've also not placed back the last door, which will end up right on the bottom right corner of the card. I wanted to show you this is how it will look. That'll cover the doors. Now let's move on to some more tokens for the scenario. Now we're going to place the item A, B, and C tokens all over the scenario. That's going to do it for all the item tokens. We have a number of A tokens, a total of 6 of them. We have 2 B tokens and 1 C token. We also have 1 item box down here in the bottom right. And in the top left-hand corner, we have a black and white token, which states on the layout of this scenario that this is a campaign progression path for Uptown 2. The next step is to deal with the encounter tokens. Quite simple. Take a look at your scenario book and the map layout that you have in front of you, and you're going to see on it that each tile is going to be a certain shade of color. And if it's green, you don't have to place any encounter tokens out. If it's yellow, orange, or red, you're going to be placing tokens on the game board. Here, for this scenario in Uptown 1, we only have green tiles, which are all the tiles you can see here that do not have a token on them. So for example, that would be this tile right here. Whereas some other tiles, like this room over here, has yellow on it. And we actually have a total of 5 areas in yellow. And then we have, at a higher level of intensity, orange areas as well. We have 2 of those. And it can go all the way up to red. These are going to be encounter tables. They're going to throw all kinds of fun at us when we get into gameplay. It wouldn't be a Resident Evil game without a number of corpses lying around. We have 2 in this yellow encounter room here. And over in the orange encounter room to the right, there's a corpse in there as well. It won't just be corpses lying around, there's also zombies in this Uptown scenario. There are 4 of them on the board to start. The final thing to place on the game board are our character miniatures for both Mick and Jill. I've gone ahead and placed both of those individuals out, and you can choose which character is on which starting position. So you'll see the 2 positions as they're highlighted by the 2 characters I have out in play. So Jill is going to be up here. We're going to have Mick down here in the bottom right. Here's a look at the scenario booklet in terms of what I'm using to get the game set up to the table. So whenever you're moving through this campaign, you go to a new scenario, you'll have a couple pages dedicated to that scenario. The The top there is going to tell you exactly how to lay things out. It's all color-coded, as I mentioned, by encounters. You have the legend way up there in the top right, and then down below here you have, of course, the scenario brief Uptown 1 for this one. It tells us the title is Deathly Stillness. We have 2 encounter dice tables. We have a narrative to read, which we'll get into in part number 1. We have special rules we'll also touch on in part number 1, but the items I wanted to mention actually have to do, well, with the item deck. This is item deck B, and we also have to talk about the tension deck because going into each scenario, there are specifics around both. And in future scenarios, you might even find more item deck mentions here, so you're always going to want to reference this area to find out exactly which cards you need for each of these decks. So to create the item B deck, pretty easy. We're going to find a toolbox and the boutique key, which are 2 cards total. We're going to shuffle them together and we're going to place them next to the Raccoon City dashboard. We know we have 2 item B tokens in play, so that is what could be found at each of these locations. Again, we won't know which one's going to be found where. That's going to be part of the fun. Item deck B has been constructed, so we have A, B, and C all ready to go. The final thing we need to do is focus on the tension deck. This is going to be a deck we're going to become very familiar with when we get into gameplay, and we're going to have ourselves shuffling 1 Tough Hide, 1 Dead Rising, and 1 Splintering Wood cards into the deck at the start of this scenario. Going ahead and building out the tension deck is actually quite an easy exercise. You're simply going to find every single card that has a back like this. You're going to go inside that deck and find all cards that have this icon in the top right-hand corner. There'll be a number of them across a number of different colors as well. And then you're going to take the rest of the cards that are still there, which will be every card that does not have any icon in the top right-hand corner. This is going to start making your tension deck. And then based on the scenario you're playing, so in this case, we're playing Uptown. It told us specific cards to find. We're finding those cards from these ones right here that we pulled out. And I've already gone ahead through these cards and pulled them all out. I've got Tough Hide, Dead Rising, and Splintering Wood. So these 3 cards only are going to be going and being shuffled into the tension deck, and these ones here are going back to the game box. Once your deck is completely shuffled, you're going to place it on top of the tension deck slot in the bottom left-hand corner of the campaign dashboard, and it's worth mentioning that this tension deck is going to evolve over time and become more and more dangerous. The final things you'll want to have around the game table before you begin your campaign, of course, are going to be the dice. You'll be rolling these quite often, and you want to keep them within easy reach. You're also going to want to keep some fire tokens and damage tokens nearby, as you might be using these during your scenario, especially the damage tokens. There's more tokens beyond this, but for now I've left them inside the actual box, as I don't need them going into this very first scenario. And also remember the fact that this campaign builds upon itself. So elements of what you're about to see inside of this very first scenario are just the beginning, and there are layers that get added onto this to make things even more difficult as time goes on and put the pressure on you. And that, my friends, is going to wrap up the setup video for Resident Evil 3, the board game from Steamforged Games. Really looking forward to this Uptown 1 scenario to begin the campaign to see whether our 2 characters can come out with a victory. If you'll join me in the next episode, we'll dig right into gameplay and see how things pan out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.